Welcome everyone to the first Dev Summit hosted by the UXL Foundation. We are excited to have you all joining us here in Asia. Good morning to all of you. And for those joining us from other time zones, welcome. My name is Penpon Gaanantagoon, and this is my co-host, Syed Shafiqullah. Syed works for Intel Corporation in India as ecosystems influencer, building events and experiences that are focused on developers around AI and One API. With a network of hundreds of agencies, Syed builds outreach for Intel's events.
Thank you, Penpon, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's event. And let me also introduce Penpon Gaanantagoon. Penpon is a software engineer at Google working on machine learning software infrastructure. She leads TensorFlow and OpenXL's performance optimization collaboration with hardware partners such as Intel and ARM. She currently represents Google on the UXL Foundation Steering Committee, right? So we will go through some slides that explains Brand Live platform and how to get to the UXL Foundation Slack. Great. So we have some quick housekeeping notes before we begin so that you all have a smooth conference experience today. So when you first join the Brand Live platform, you will have an agenda page. So this is the lobby page for the conference today, and from here you can join to the various talks. So when this intro is over, you'll need to close out the window which you have it right now open and go back to the agenda page described in the screenshot, and then click on the next link in the agenda to watch the next session. The default time zone might be different than where you are right now. So please change the time zone in the area circled here, which you can see on the slide, right? So in order to enjoy the conference with your fellow attendees, we have a Slack channel where you can join the #OneAPI Dev Summit UXL channel and interact with other conference attendees. And during the session, if you have any questions, right, so there's a Q&A tab on the left side where you can see, please do post your questions there and we'll be more than happy to respond to that. And even the speaker will take the last few minutes to respond to those queries. So please feel free to post your questions there, right? And I think with this, we have covered the basic platform understanding, and I would thank everyone once again for joining today's conference and have a great conference. Thank you.
Now, let me introduce our first speaker, Rod Burns from CodePlay, who will be speaking about the UXL State of the Union as a recorded talk. Let's start.
Hello. I'm really pleased to be part of this latest One API Dev Summit, especially as it's being hosted by the UXL Foundation. I'm looking forward to hearing from our community on their work and learning more about how they're using SQL and One API to build highly accelerated software using open standards. Thanks for joining us. My name's Rod Burns. I'm the chair for the UXL Foundation Steering Committee. I'm going to be providing you with a bit of an update on the foundation, talk about how you can get involved in shaping the future of accelerated computing. So the landscape of computing has changed, and developers are using increasingly diverse architectures to achieve the sorts of levels of performance we've never really seen before in systems in increasingly diverse situations. So not only are scientists running highly complex simulations and experiments using HPC clusters with many GPUs, but it's possible to run the newest AI workloads on portable computers, as well as things like drones and even vehicles like the autonomous ones that we're seeing. Alongside this, we're seeing the emergence of new processors designed to accelerate these workloads. So-called MPUs and specialist AI processors are becoming available. But developers don't want to program in different ways for different devices, in particular across vendors. And the challenge that developers are seeing is that different architectures often typically require different languages, different tools, different libraries, adding a lot of complexity and limiting their ability to reuse code. So this makes it difficult to take advantage of multi-architecture systems and to adopt new architectures. And the UXL Foundation was formed to tackle this by providing an open, standard-based, multi-architecture way to develop software and deploy this code across vendor processors. The UXL Foundation is committed to providing a framework that is open and scalable for the current and next generation of processors. Right now, developers can use the UXL Foundation projects alongside SQL to write code that can be run on processors from AMD, ARM, Intel, and NVIDIA. In fact, developers in both research institutes and commercial organizations are deploying code that makes use of these capabilities. And the foundation is bringing together both hardware companies and software companies to take these projects to the next level by adding more vendor targets and evolving the projects to meet the needs of the next generation of AI and HPC applications. Our goal is to deliver the building blocks required for the majority of applications so that you can achieve great performance regardless of vendor or architecture. So this is the UXL Foundation mission. We're building a multi-architecture, multi-vendor software ecosystem for all accelerators. Our ethos is based around delivering this using industry-defined open standards. We're building on and expanding projects that are open source and already being deployed in production code by commercial companies. And what's really clear is that the community needs to get behind open standards and open source to help us achieve this mission for hardware that's available now and will be available in the future. Ultimately, open communities facilitate the next generation of innovation, and open technologies have powered the previous decades of innovation and will power the coming decades as well. And you in the audience can be a part of that, and it's a big opportunity. So the One API specification was the first contribution to the foundation and forms the basis for our current projects. Alongside this, the projects build on the SYCL standard, governed by the Kronos Group, an independent standards body. SYCL is what the projects use to implement much of the cross-vendor, cross-architecture capabilities that they need. And the elements of the specification are implemented as open source projects that are also governed by the foundation. And our goal is to continue to drive a vendor-neutral ecosystem for open accelerated compute, and do this by building on the momentum created by the One API initiative, out of which these projects were created. So a year ago, we brought together these organizations to drive the UXL Foundation forward. 8 key organizations from the industry, spanning hardware and software, all with a common goal to build a multi-architecture, multi-vendor software ecosystem for all accelerators. These organizations shape the goals and governance model with a commitment to contributing their efforts to the foundation. So today, we have more than 30 members, and most recently we've welcomed a new member to the steering committee, GE Healthcare, who are a big supporter of open standards. And actually you can hear from Evgeny on the 10th of October at this Dev Summit. He's going to talk a bit more about how his organization is using One API. Alongside that announcement, we saw 2 new general members, SK Hynix and Micron. They're both joining us to help define new standards for the latest memory technology and have joined as general members. So Samsung will be talking later today about their existing efforts in this memory technology area to bring their processing and memory to developers. We also have 2 key alliances. The SYCL standards defined by Kronos is really important for the UXL projects, as I said. So we've set up mechanisms to facilitate sharing knowledge and feedback across the groups. The Autoware group is also working closely with our members to build a demonstration for their autonomous driving software. And you can hear more about that in a panel session on the 10th of October. So the UXL Foundation governance was originally agreed by the steering committee members that joined us when we formed the foundation. So we adopted the structure that's from the Joint Development Foundation, and this is part of the Linux Foundation and provides standard terms and member agreements. It's already been used by a bunch of different successful Linux Foundation projects, and it's designed for projects that are incorporating standards in the way that we are with the One API specification. The Technical Steering Committee is formed from our steering members, takes care of high-level decision-making, direction for the foundation. The working groups exist to help steer and define the work packages that are necessary for different open source projects and the specification. These groups also solicit feedback and discuss that feedback. The SIGs exist as an informal place for the community to gather, where presentations are made on different topics focused around these core areas that I'll talk about. Anyone can participate in the SIGs, contribute to the open source projects, but you will need to join as a member to participate in the working groups. So our SIGs operate to facilitate knowledge sharing and to bring feedback from the community on what is needed from the foundation and its projects. So you're free to join these meetings. You can also watch the recordings afterwards and you can view the meeting notes. So take a look at our GitHub repo to find out more details about these. You can get in touch with the mailing list if you would like to present or talk at one of these meetings. So I just want to give you a bit of background on where the foundation has come from so that you can see the journey that we've taken. So the journey started in 2019 when at the annual supercomputing conference, the One API specification was published and a group was formed to bring feedback from the community on that specification. Over the next few years, the specification evolved with new feedback groups being formed for different elements, and larger developer events were held to educate people about all of this. Alongside this, the open source projects for the specification were made available on GitHub, and the initial targets for these projects were Intel processors, but as the projects developed over the next few years, this expanded to NVIDIA and AMD targets, as well as some ARM CPU targets for some of the projects. And the libraries have been broadly adopted across the industry, thanks to the commercial releases by Intel, the One API based toolkits. So in the past year, we've made some good steps to expand the activities around the projects. Our working groups are established, and we have work packages that are ongoing. We're also adopting the best practices for our projects around open source. New targets are being added, contributions are being made to the projects. We have integration with key projects, in particular around AI frameworks that I'll also talk a bit about. So I just want to talk about some of the projects that are already taking advantage of the projects that the UXL Foundation governs, the One API projects. So the GROMATS project is a major science application, one of the most popular projects in the world. It uses the 1MKL library for portable maths operations. NWChem is another project that's widely used in the science community for computational chemistry. And this project is benefiting from the One API projects for cross-vendor acceleration, so the ability to run across different machines from different vendors. The Ginkgo project, again, is another high-performance library, this time for linear algebra, that's used by different institutes across the world. And it, again, is benefiting from the ability to have SQL and One API backends that allow portability and performance. So the last section is really about different projects, but that's in the context of the US national laboratories. So these laboratories are spread across the country. Many of them have their own supercomputers and clusters, often with different vendor processors. So these projects, amongst others, are using the 1MKL project to help scale performance across machines like Aurora, Perlmutter, Polaris, and Frontier. So this shows a bit about the level of adoption that's taking place across a range of different AI frameworks with the UXL Foundation projects and One API. So TensorFlow has been using One API for a while to accelerate execution on different processors. And more recently, the PyTorch project has integrated code in the upstream repository that's taking advantage of the One API libraries for CPU and GPU acceleration. This is alongside SQL code as well. So OneAndDAL is being used alongside scikit-learn to accelerate code on the Fugaku supercomputer. The Llama CPP project has integrated a backend that uses SQL alongside 1MKL and 1DNN to enable an open standards path for multi-architecture acceleration on different processors. So lastly, the Jackson OpenXL projects are using the 1DNN project for performance on CPUs and GPUs. So as I've said, it's possible to use the libraries today. I'd encourage you to do that. You can download a binary package called the One API-based toolkit, but you can also build the projects from source and target a broad range of different processors from different vendors. So the libraries are implemented using the SQL standard, and this is what helps them to be able to target a flexible set of architectures and different processors. So like the projects I've shown in the previous slide, they will take advantage of this open standards path to multi-vendor acceleration. So I just want to highlight a few of the things that we've been doing for this past year. There's been ongoing development happening in all the projects with contributions coming in for new ARM targets. We've had an automotive demonstration project with the Autoware group and some very interesting work to integrate generic GPU backends into projects to allow them that flexibility to add more and more different targets and make those available. We also have a number of work packages that are happening in a variety of areas for things like build infrastructure. And we've also been busy at lots of events, educating people, making presentations, and sharing the mission of the foundation. And we hope that we can meet some of you in person at some of these events soon. So how can you bring your feedback and how can you contribute? So we want you to bring your feedback through issues on the projects. We want you to join the SIGs and bring your feedback through those channels. The working groups are also a crucial channel for feedback, proposals, and everything else. And also the crucial thing is that as the projects increasingly develop through the open source repositories, we want your comments on the RFCs. So this is a mechanism where you can provide feedback on major changes to projects, architecture, new features, APIs, and things like that. So please do that. You can also contribute to the projects for things like new features, documentation. You can even add new hardware targets, or you can even just come and tell us what it is that you need or you think that is missing. So that's another way for you to get involved. We'd also like you to bring infrastructure to the foundation. So we're really keen to talk to organizations that can help us to test and benchmark on more platforms so that we have a broad range of open source testing available. So the first of my call to actions as I close off is to ask you to join us. Membership starts from $0. If you want to take a more influential role, you can join at the general or steering levels, but you can find out more information on our website and you can sign up there. So the last thing for me to do is to say thank you for listening. Please join us on our mission. There's some QR codes to sign up to the mailing list and the Slack channel. Please enjoy the rest of this One API Dev Summit. Our members and the community will be talking about many different topics. So thanks and enjoy the rest of the event.